Hello, I'm Steve Barry. I'm an Assistant Chief Constable with Sussex Police, currently seconded to the Department for Transport. I'm working on the Road Policing Review. It's a joint review between the DFT, the Home Office, supported by the National Police Chiefs Council, who I represent. It's a 2-year project, and we're in the second year already, but we are making strong progress. The purpose of the review was to really explore the baseline of evidence for what is the state of road policing nationally at the moment. What is best practice, what are the gaps, and what are the opportunities to improve the model of road policing, the structures, the processes, the way road policing is funded, and to really explore the entire ecosystem that is road safety. So I'm really pleased to be speaking here at the Festival of Road Safety today. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the structure of the review and how it's broken down into separate work streams. There's a number of work streams. The key ones that I would like to mention today are the intelligence and enforcement work stream. As many of you will know, roads policing is directed very much by NRPOI, National Roads Policing Ops and Intelligence, currently led at NPCC level by Commander Carl Gordon and supported by Paul Kesey from Gloucestershire Police, who many of you will know. The intelligence work stream has brought many of the partners together to really explore at a strategic level how we can improve information sharing, the analysis of intelligence, and turning that into deliverable products that can be really operationalized to the benefit of road policing. From an enforcement perspective, we're very much building an evidence base of what is out there at the moment, not just from a road policing perspective, but also partners as well. So we've got DVSA around the table, DVLA around the table, Highways England, and through the work of that work stream, we are again exploring how we can work together better to deliver more enforcement activity to keep people safe on the roads. The next work stream I'd like to talk about is the Road Safety Partnerships work stream. So we've sent a survey out to all road safety partnerships, has some really good returns in, and that work is being analysed at the moment. Hopefully we'll be reporting very soon, but early findings suggest that there is a very mixed picture in terms of the models for road safety partnerships, the funding for road safety partnerships, and the priorities for road safety partnerships. And again there, what the review would like to do is, through the DFT and the Home Office, is identify some best practice and look for opportunities to fill any gaps in road safety partnerships. From a Home Office perspective, there are a couple of key work streams that they are leading. The first one is Home Office type approval, and there's a longer term project there working with the DSTL, which is the scientific wing of Home Office accreditation of enforcement technology and other technology. That's a longer term project looking at a better methodology for accrediting technology effectively for roads policing. The other Home Office led work stream is the driver training piece under the new legislation, and exploring through National Police Chiefs Council lead TCC Terry Woods from Lancashire how we can improve the consistency of driver training and support the enactment of the new bill around driver training and the difference in the standard to which police driving will be judged. And then the last work stream that I'd like to mention is one that I'm leading that will be close to many of your hearts, which is that of the victim support post-crash. It was very, very important from the DFT and Home Office perspective that the victim's voice was heard in the road policing review, and to that end I've been leading a small working group with some of the key partners around the victims of support post-crash, many of you who will know, for example, Road Peace and Break. And what we're exploring there is what is a sustainable model of post-crash support. We've clearly identified that the current funding model and the current delivery models for victim support post-crash are a little bit too unsustained, sometimes inconsistent, and certainly from a police force perspective, the support that is there is also given from a family liaison officer perspective needs to be standardised, needs to be consistent, and needs to be properly supported with appropriate funding. So those are the work streams. In terms of the progress that we've made so far, as I say, 2 years project. The first year very much focused on building an evidence base for the state of road policing. I mean, building on much of the work that's already in play. NPCC have obviously done their own report on the state of road policing with a number of recommendations under the leadership of Chief Constable Anthony Bangham. PACS have obviously done a report around road policing, which we've built on, has been incredibly useful to the review, so thank you to PACS for sharing that. And we've also done a commissioning of the HMIC FRS, Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Policing, to do a thematic inspection, which many of you will have seen, will have read, was published earlier this summer. And that delivered 13 recommendations, not just to policing, but to the Department for Transport and to the Home Office, also to the College of Policing. I won't go into the detail of what those recommendations are, just draw out a couple of highlights. It's available on the web should anyone want to read it. I would urge people to read it. I do think it's been a milestone moment in the review, landing that thematic inspection, and the good news is that it has confirmed what we thought anecdotally about road policing. The bad news is it is not a good picture, and there is clearly room for improvement in terms of how road policing is led, how it's governed, how it's structured, and how it's prioritised to focus both on road safety and traffic enforcement, as well as tackling criminality, including really serious criminality on the roads. So a couple of the recommendations that I would just draw out from the HMIC report. The first one is ensuring that the Department for Transport and the Home Office are as joined up as they possibly can be in terms of the way that the policing of the roads is governed and how the priorities are set. There is clearly a tension in the system of road policing, in that the Home Office own the resources and direct the resources that are policing, and the Department for Transport own the risk around road death and serious injury. And the review has clearly achieved something in bringing senior people from two government departments together on a regular basis to talk about how can we work better together. That in itself has been an achievement. What will come out of the HMIC recommendations is an action plan that we're already working on that will report to the Road Policing Governance Board very shortly. And the Road Policing Governance Board is made up of the significant stakeholders around road safety and road policing. So no surprises, the DFT and the Home Office are there, also National Police Chiefs Council, but also just to list a few: Highways England, DVLA, DVSA, CPS, Traffic Commissioners, Road Safety GB, and obviously our RPAN representative is Dr. Helen Wells, who many of you will also know. So a very good cross-section of the stakeholders and professional expertise at the governance board level, I'm glad to report. Other progress that I can report from the review is the call for evidence, which again many of you will have seen. So the government's call for evidence came out, has closed on the 5th of October. Thus far, we would assess that there are 150 submissions to the call for evidence that are usable and constructive. The next step in that process is to analyse the submissions, to draw out the themes, draw out the findings, and again report that back to the governance board and subsequently ministers. The formalities of a call for evidence are such that the government will need to be in a position to respond to the call for evidence probably by about spring 2021, which is in keeping with the timeline for the overarching review. In support of the review, we've also had PhD level research conducted with all bar 2 of the forces that were not inspected by HMI, and a full report has been compiled on that research, and the conclusions very much mirror what the HMI are recommending. So we've got the confirmation across the board with all bar 2 of the forces that it's a similar picture that we're finding. In addition, we've done a quantitative survey that was online. 4,500 members of staff, police officers from police forces contributed to that survey, which is a really good result in terms of online surveys. And what that is telling us is the reality of what officers are spending their time doing. So in theory, roads policing officers are out there patrolling the roads, enforcing traffic legislation, tackling criminality, and the reality is sometimes very different in terms of the abstractions that they have, in terms of the calls that they get diverted to, and the reality of how much time, how many hours a week they're spending on proactive activity, enforcing traffic legislations, is quite stark. and needs to be considered as part of the wider review. A couple of other pieces of progress to mention is obviously at a ministerial level, there is very close interest, both from Baroness Veer from the DFT side and Kit Malthouse from the Policing Home Office side. We've actually had a very successful ministerial summit, hoping to have another one soon, where some of the key issues were discussed. And certainly one of the key issues, it's almost like a golden thread that runs through the review, that's come out of the summit, that's come out of the work streams, is the different agencies' ability to share information, turn that information into intelligence, analyze it, and then turn that into products that can be tasked to road policing or other agencies as part of the enforcement activity. The reality is that there are significant inhibitors to the sharing of that information. Sometimes those are cultural, often they're technological, and very often they're legal. So the data protection regulations do not in any way facilitate easy sharing of information for legitimate reasons, but I think it's a question that the review is posing the DFT and the Home Office, which is, so how acceptable is that? If the reality is that criminals are escaping justice, if the reality is dangerous offenders on the road are evading enforcement activity as a result of agencies' inability to share information, the question is, well, how prepared are we to try and tackle that from a legal perspective? So we're exploring that as well. And an indication of the review's willingness to tackle that is the Compliance Vehicle Initiative, initially born out of the ANPR team within the Home Office, but now very much under the review, bringing the key agencies together that look at insurance, vehicle tax, MOT, and registered keeper details. So those agencies are around the table on a regular basis. We're actually meeting once a week as we speak to try and crack the nut that is sharing of the data sets that each individual agency holds, trying to cross-reference them and see from a research perspective whether that is beneficial and how beneficial that is. And as I say, massive inhibitors to that from a legal perspective, but by getting the right people around the table, we're having the conversations and we're exploring the opportunities to address those challenges. So that is pretty much the road policing review in about 10 minutes, I would say. We are looking as to whether or not the review's 2-year time span will be sufficient. So there's conversations going on as we speak in the DFT and the Home Office around is it a hard stop on the 2-year? Is there a legacy of the review in terms of an action plan, or do we actually consider whether the review should be extended? And those conversations are going on as we speak. From my perspective, there is certainly an enormous amount of work that needs to be done. There are significant opportunities as well as significant threats to sustaining the right level and the right type of enforcement activity on our roads. And the police have got as much to do as anybody in terms of improving things and getting our own house in order. So I, as the National Police Chiefs Council on the review, will be lobbying hard with my colleagues, with the NPCC portfolio through Anthony Bangham, to ensure that our structures and processes are fit for the 21st century. And I hope that the agencies, and I anticipate that the agencies that are working with us on the review will do likewise. And I hope that in the long term, the legacy of the review will be that in terms of enforcement activity, in terms of keeping people safe on our roads, the agencies that are involved will come together, will work together, will do more joint work, and as a result, we will be much more effective, much more than the sum of our parts. Thank you.